Excuse me? Did you just ask what was BGK Network for? I'm glad that you asked. Let me get the number up because I know you're going to call. So BGK was founded by Michael. What happened to the number? The number's at the top of the screen now. But anyway, get the number. As I was saying, BGK Network was founded by... It's at the bottom of the screen. Really? Really? Okay. I'm sorry for calling you Michael. Apostle, just put me back where I can talk. Just put me back, please. Wow, some people are so sensitive, right? But seriously, what you just saw was a sample of what Apostle Michael Dulaney and Evangelist Tiffany can do through virtual ministry with BGK Network. They founded BGK to help people like you and myself to put the gospel out around the world. It's a great opportunity. I do encourage you to call the number. It's more affordable than you think. Give them a call. I did.
Thank you so much for joining me once again for Let's Talk About Marriage and the Family. I'm Dr. Mom, and I'm always happy to greet you and those that you invite to share with us on this presentation. Don't forget, I've been asking you to take my little cards, call me up, and some of you all have used the telephone number 972-816-7887. You've used the phone number to request some of these so that you can put them up in the health club. You can put them up in your grocery market, wherever there's a bulletin board. Just put some of the cards up that let's talk about marriage and the family. And then on the reverse side, those of you that may be interested in some ministry opportunities on my station called The Saints, let me know, because in October, we're going to be opening up our station for men and women that would like to talk about their ministry, would like to talk about the Bible. You might even want to do a cooking show, a Christian cooking show, get people into some good, healthy eating habits. So give me that phone call. You can always reach me at rjjoseph920@gmail.com. And then the phone number again is 972-816-7887. I am so very happy to have my pastor, Pastor Patrick Winfield II, to be my guest today. It's been a little hard trying to get him to be my guest, not because he didn't want to be, but several things have happened. By the time you do see this presentation in October, we're recording actually in September, his beloved wife will have buried her mother. And we have been supporting the entire Winfield family, her family, and then also the Winfield family. So there's been a lot of traveling and a lot of things going on. So Pastor has been extremely busy. Thank you so much for sharing with us today. Let's talk about marriage and the family. Don't do like one of your namesakes, Pastor Patrick Schaefer said. I remember when I was a little boy sitting on the back seat of my parents' car, and I would hear you talking about, let's talk about marriage and the family. I said, well, at least you were on the back seat of a car, not a stagecoach someplace, and there was a radio.
I won't say that only because I'm older than him, so people can do the math.
Yes.
But if he was watching it or listening to it, yeah.
All right. Well, it's a joy to have you on. And for people that don't know you, give us a little bit of background about you and where you've come from and what you're doing.
Well, my name is Patrick Winfield, as aforementioned, and I am originally from Chicago. I was a youth pastor there in the city of Chicago for 5.5 years until me and my bride went to Las Vegas out west and planted a church called Christian Embassy Worship Center and served there in planting that church and bivocationally, I might add, both as a senior pastor and establishmentarian and a teacher and eventually an administrator. And did that for 5.5 years. And then God opened up an opportunity for us to move here to Texas, and where I was the principal of Clay Academy and did that for a couple of years, turned it from a private Christian school to a public charter, to partner with the public charter organization. And after that second year of doing that, I was asked to come over and to pastor the Potter's House of Fort Worth. Presently, we've been here for 13 years. Been married for 21 years. I have 3 sons, Christian, 28, Joshua, who is 19, and Caleb, who is 17 years old, and a grandson named Paris, who is 6 years old. And so excited to be here. My roots are Chicago, but my fruits are Texas.
All
And
right.
Las Vegas.
Well, in each of those things, I can identify that I was somewhere present. I was
Absolutely.
yeah, I was present in Cleveland at the wedding, and I think I even said, I made a comment to your bride one Sunday after church. I said, yeah, the first song that they played after they pronounced you man and wife was Hosanna by Kirk
Right.
Franklin. And everybody danced around the church. And
Mhm.
then they played Natalie Cole's This Is It. And she goes, you remember that? And I was like, yeah, I remember it. So so many
Yeah.
wonderful things.
And you were there when I was receiving my Master's of Divinity and needed another a person to help chair one of my final presentations. And you were there helping me, tutoring me, mentoring me along through that process at McCormick Theological Seminary.
Yes.
So you have been there for a while in our lives.
Yes, yes.
As a staple, as a pillar of faith and certainly of wisdom and guidance for us. So I thank and praise God for your presence, Dr.
Well,
Bond.
I thank you that in every time you have asked me what I thought, I prayed and asked God to give me the best advice for you. The best advice was to go to Las Vegas, because I think you brought so much to that community, and I was so happy to come there and to minister at your first year anniversary. And talking about the last baby, Lady V was pregnant with the last baby, and so I just have always enjoyed being around the two of you. You're a wonderful young man. I think you called me one night and said that God was moving you to another location. Would I write a letter of recommendation? I said, who do I send it to? And you told me where, and I think they had it the next morning. But I was so very happy as you took the challenge to start to teach the Bible study at Fort Worth, and then to be installed as the campus pastor there, and doing a wonderful job there with so many wonderful ministries and things that are happening there. I know I always give people some talking points and say, these are some things we may talk about. So as the campus pastor of the Potter's House Fort Worth, what are some of the points that you have endeavored to make with your singles ministry and your marriage ministry? What direction are you giving to those leaders so that they can teach and produce what you desire as far as family and marriage?
Well, over the years, and you know this as well as anybody, over the years and my 21 years of being married, I found that the demands and the things that a family and or relationship may ask of you changes with age and stage. And oftentimes we don't consider the ideas of age and stage when we are trying to give wisdom and mentorship to couples. What worked with one couple in one stage of life may not work with another couple
Yeah.
that's in a different stage of life. They're in two totally different concepts of life and living. And one of the things that I have tried to impress upon our leaders, both in singles ministry and married couples ministry, is to have a high level of emotional and intelligence and awareness of these stages of life. That we just don't have a blanket statement of answers
Yes.
to cover all things, but that we look and dig into the age and stage that couples are in, individual couples, or singles are in, individual singles, and to help them, to walk them through that stage of life, to come alongside and help them to be able to develop the tools, relational tools needed and necessary to be successful in their relationships. So I've impressed upon them high level of emotional intelligence. I've impressed upon them an understanding of the times that we live in right now.
Yes.
That the pandemic and all of the emotional and mental issues that the pandemic caused people inside the house, both married and single, both with children and without children.
Yes.
And to take all of these things into consideration, and that we become, as it were, very aware and educated in those things that families have been dealing with, blended, not blended. I mean, everybody.
Yes.
Because I think the pandemic and all kinds of trauma impacts us differently. And we don't have a control on how it impacts us. We just have to be sensitive enough to walk people through the processes of how they heal from their past traumas.
Exactly, exactly. So I know this, but I want my viewers to understand that you are a very strong proponent of mental health.
Yes.
And I, of course, I'm one that wants to deal a lot more with the mental health issues that we find in marriages and in relationships, because a few weeks ago in Bible study, you were talking about the checklist that you already were attracted to Lady V. That she was a very beautiful woman and all, and you knew much of her background, but you wanted to see how she lived. And a lot can be said for how people live you can see a lot of mental issues when you go to people's homes and you see the way that they're living. If they're living in clutter, or the background, if they have moved quite a bit in their life, there's been no stability, can create some very, very big mental issues. How do you challenge a couple that's sitting in front of you and it is apparent that there are mental issues that need to be addressed professionally? How do you challenge them?
Well, Dr. Mom, and I learned this from you. A healthy dose of realism will help couples to be able to get out of sometimes the unhealthy malaise of idealism.
Yes.
And that is to say that if we do our jobs well, we help people to understand what are some of the things that could come out of this. It is very possible that you can love an individual and at the same time that individual not be healthy for you.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Not because they don't love you back, but because they have not done the mental and emotional work to help themselves not to become toxic. And we've seen it oftentimes. I know you've seen it 3 times as much as I've seen it, but we've nevertheless seen these kinds of scenarios kind of develop. So one of the things that we do is to give them a healthy dose of realism.
Mm-hmm.
That first of all, we've got to parse, if you will, what are personality conflicts,
Yes.
and then what are trauma conflicts. And the personality conflicts are who you are, but the trauma conflicts is what I went through is contradicting with what you went through, and now we're clashing. And this moment that we're dealing with has nothing to do with personality. It has everything to do how we have dealt with our trauma in times past. And I've seen relationships divorce over them. I've seen relationships go south because of them. And they had more to do with the traumatic experiences or the traumatic responses that people have had to those experiences, that they have brought into the present moment and made the present moment more toxic than what it is. And as a result, they've separated or the relationship went south.
Yes.
To convey that kind of realism to couples who are stuck in idealism. Now, we believe the word love covers a multitude of sin. Love conquers all of that. That's great. That is dealing with the idea of having a high level of spiritual intelligence that's connected to emotional intelligence, in which love can do that.
Yes.
But if you're not spiritually intelligent and you're spiritually immature, and by virtue of that level of immaturity have emotional immaturity, then you don't have enough love to be able to conquer all.
Yes.
In fact, you're conquered
Yes.
by a lot of things. And so it's just that kind of realism to be able to convey that to people, to help them to understand that that is a real thing. We don't over spiritualize that. Let's deal with this now, and let's deal with it through counseling, through therapy, both individually and collectively.
Mm-hmm.
And then let's help to heal as much as possible. Because if you can heal as much as possible, now it's going to help you later down the line when you guys are facing tragedies together.
Yes.
And now you're called upon to help bring healing to each other in the moment. You'll have the proper tools to help each other out.
Exactly. And I have this expression. I say, when you throw a bucket of hot water into a pen of hogs, whoever hollers got hit. And so as you were talking, I could relate to my own marital experiences. The trauma of living in an abuse situation. And the reality was believing that in marriage, I could be the best wife, I could be the best individual, and doing everything I possibly could to be that. But the trauma of being raised, from the time I could understand or hear. My mother was saying, oh, when Ramona was born, everything went wrong. And
Wow.
that's traumatic.
Wow. Absolutely.
I'd be in a car with you and Lady V, and someone would hit the car, and immediately I would think, oh, it happened because I was in the car.
Wow.
It wasn't just an accident. It happened because when I was born, everything went wrong. And so I did have enough forethought, or I guess enough thinking to seek therapy and help. But and I will tell people this in a heartbeat, another dose of realism. If we are married and we need therapy and you don't want to go to therapy, you are out of the relationship. And it's time for the one person to say, hey, they're not really into this relationship because I want to get well. And I would think that in the relationship, they would want to be well. What did you find during the pandemic with a lot of married couples at Potter's House, Fort Worth, and not calling anybody by name, but did you have more experiences where people were leaving voicemail messages saying, I can't believe I'm married to this?
Well, yeah, absolutely. And that was happening in households all over the place, right? It's not it's not just the married couple, but it's also, the married couple and their kids, right? It's all of it. One of the things that we found out is that we have lost the art of living with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say living with each other, I mean coexisting together to the point where we are in each other's space for longer than the 5 to 7 or 8 hours or whatever that we sleep and that we rest and that we eat. Typically, a working couple wakes up in the morning, gets the kids ready, and then they go to their jobs, and then they come home by 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening, and they only spend 3 hours with each other, and not even the full 3 hours, because then you spend in different rooms working on different things. And so you don't necessarily have to be together until there is a family vacation.
Yes.
Right. And then the entertainment of the vacation brings you away from each other, having to be with each other. The pandemic forced people to be together.
Yes.
And it's very possible for you to be together and be apart because the other person has grown in an area or developed in an area or traumatized in an area that you were not privy to. And so you don't know how the changes happened and occurred until you are forced to sit there with each other.
Exactly.
What I found out is that was happening probably more than ever. And we all had to get to the place where we would sit with each other for a while. That I started having Zoom sessions. Me and my wife, we had Zoom sessions with married couples, and we would sit there. We would ask, what are other married couples doing?
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing to be able to foster better relationships, or to use this opportunity to improve on your relationships? Not to fight each other because of the differences, and certainly not to fight each other because of the changes, but to understand what changes occurred, to understand how then I must be able to respond to those changes and create, as it were, better opportunities for us to really, not just be married, but stay married and to be with our kids. And how are we going to be with each other, and how we're going to be with our kids? These are kind of conversations that we oftentimes don't get an opportunity to talk about. We use this as an opportunity to highlight those issues so we can talk about it a lot more. And there are other couples that were doing some great things, some other couples that fed off of what other couples were doing. And we all kind of encouraged each other and fed each other and used some of those ideas within the context of our own families.
Yes. And one of the things in one of my notes that I write lots of notes, that I find that during the pandemic, people that I was talking to never had a family night. They never, during the whole course of the children growing up, who's in charge of family night? It rotates around. So maybe this time, it's the son that's in charge. He decides the topic. He decides if we're going to look at a movie, what we're going to eat, and it gives everyone the shared opportunity to be a part of the family. So when I start talking about shared opportunity of growing up and having the experience, many times I was counseling people and they were going, family night, where did you come up with that? And that should have been something that was going on at least once a month, where everyone got together and we shut off our phones and we had some time to share a dream. What was your dream in life? What did you want to do? What have you not done that that you feel as though you missed out on? Those conversations had never been happening. And now we're stuck in a house. And how do we come to dialogue, to talk with each other?
And Dr. Mom, if I can interject there, I think for a lot of families, those kinds of conversations would only happen if there is a tragedy or a problem.
Yes.
And because then it's forced to, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, what's wrong with you? Why are you acting like this? Tell me what's going on. And it's it's bringing and highlighting a particular thought or train of thought within the context of a problematic situation, which doesn't cause for you to look at it through eyes of understanding, but through eyes of settling. And those two things may be totally different. Where I attack the problem not because I'm trying to understand it, but because I'm trying to answer it, to
Yes.
alleviate it, to erase it.
Yes.
And that's not a healthy way of creating and dealing with relationships.
No.
And so those kinds of family night things, because I'll be the first one to say that we included it and inculcated it within our families. Not to say that we hadn't done it before, but it's just to say that we was so busy doing life, as a pastor, as a first lady, and the kids with their schedule and all that stuff, that we lose track of it. We oftentimes lose track of it.
Yeah.
And so we had to kind of come back to that, and then come back to what's the centerpiece of it.
Yes.
The
Yes.
centerpiece of it is to locate you during this time of change, because trauma changes people.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Traumatic experiences changes people. And oftentimes we don't locate each other. I love that. I love the movie 2012. And it's the apocalyptic movie in which the earth is core is heating up and the sun is giving burst, and it's causing for asteroids going to hit the earth, and it's going to cause a major flood in the whole earth, and people are going to die and all that stuff, and they've been building arcs and all that stuff. And one of the fathers, it highlighted a father that was away from his kids, and his kids was living with their mom and stepdad. And he was on his way back from doing an assignment, because he was a driver and a chauffeur, and he saw that the earth was shaking. And he said, "I'm coming to get you. I'm coming to get the kids. I'm coming to get the kids." And the mother was like, "No, I want the kids, stay with me." And it was that kind of thing until the earth started shaking, and then everybody had to get together.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
The father had to get with the stepfather, and the father was driving the stepfather and the kids and the mama to the airport, and the stepfather was a pilot, so the stepfather stepped in and started flying the plane, while the father was the family was working together in the midst of chaos.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Where we stop arguing with each other, stop dealing with the issues of our past and what we did wrong, and we start loving each other in the present situations that we find ourselves in, so that we can move forward through this tragedy, through this ever-changing world that we're living in. And I'm finding out that that's what it was to be in the pandemic together, right?
Yes. Yes.
Where if you highlight the issue, then you really don't see what the pandemic is doing. It's trying to bring us together,
Yes.
to have these kind of viable conversations. Where we don't, concentrate on the issues of our past per se, but that we concentrate on some of the solutions that we can come and bring to the table, and that my kids actually have viable solutions.
Yes.
Because they have viable issues, and they got viable lives, and they got things that they've been looking at through their lens. Our dog has got issues. He's got Max Pomax. He had viable issues, and we had to deal with his issues too. Everybody had to come together so that we can get through this thing together.
Yes. Yes.
I say this, and this is probably one of the powerful moments of our family, because our anniversary was during the pandemic in 2021, so we couldn't go nowhere. We were just all locked in, and so our boys created a moment whereby we could just be together, and they went out on the patio in the backyard, and they just they made the tables. They were the servants, and they brought out food and all that stuff. They were serving us. It was the cutest thing. And it was saying this, our sons were telling us that we want to participate in the peace and the love of your marriage.
Yes.
We want to honor the anniversary.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? And as much as they honored us in our time and our day and our moment, as much as we honored them and their birthdays and all of that stuff, it made for a time where we can, just create those kinds of moments.
Yes. Well, listen, you've been my guest. Let's talk about marriage and the family. And you've been the guest of my pastor, Pastor Patrick E. Winfield, and he's going to come back. We're going to talk a little bit more about what he sees in the future in marriage and relationships. Thank you for joining us for another edition of Let's Talk About Marriage and the Family.